Welcome to American Crossroads. I'm Craig Demchek, sitting in this week for Jeff Barn. We wanted to do something, well, a little different, taking our show on the road. You might remember a couple months back we did our first American Crossroads on the oil and gas crisis, or whatever you want to call this mess we're in right now. And sure, as of right now, gas prices have come down a little bit, but the overall problem remains. As a nation, we are still running on empty, especially in terms of answers and action. As part of our symbolic vehicle for this show, we are also running on empty. And like our country, we're really not sure how long we can keep going.
Let's go after every single drop of oil that's available to us.
We believe you can't drill your way out of this problem.
But the pipeline of partisan politics is flowing freely. Offshore drilling, whether to tap the federal oil reserve, inflate your tires, make a joke out of inflating your tires. What this country needs is a real leader who can find a common ground, who can eloquently but concisely give America a real vision for our energy future.
Well, why don't we do a hybrid of both candidates' ideas? We can do limited offshore drilling with strict environmental oversight while creating tax incentives to get Detroit making hybrid and electric cars. That way, the offshore drilling carries us until the new technologies kick in, which will then create new jobs and energy independence. Energy crisis solved.
That is funny, but it's true. I mean, and we're not the only ones who think that Paris Hilton's energy plan actually makes sense.
I think it's totally hot.
Unlike the blather we've grown accustomed to hearing out of Washington, it's all become just rhetoric shaped by party lines and political finger pointing.
I'm accusing the president of policies that have driven up the price of oil with no sensitivity to what it means to working families in America.
Now wait a minute, is this the same House Speaker who tried to keep colleagues, and the American public by the way, in the dark, literally after Congress decided it was more important to go on a vacation than to keep working on an energy bill? Morris Jones shows us, well, as much as he can.
The drill nothing Congress.
While most federal lawmakers left town, a group of House Republicans stayed behind. Political theater, perhaps, but these lawmakers also pushing for new energy legislation. Usually when members of Congress are debating the people's business on the House or Senate floor, TV cameras are rolling. Let me take you inside. But get this, you can't see what's going on in here because House Speaker Nancy Pelosi ordered the cameras turned off during the August recess.
Shame on her. You know, what's important, what's going on in the country right now is we need some help with the energy problems, and what are they doing?
For those who stayed on the job,
you can't shut down free speech in this House!
Armed with their own cameras and cell phones, lawmakers are showing the rest of the country what Nancy Pelosi didn't want you to see.
We demand a vote on the floor of the House.
Republicans say they're fine with the Democrats' alternative energy plan as long as drilling is part of it, or at least take a vote.
10 of us decided if we had to speak to an empty room, we were going to say our piece.
It is just simply wrong for Congress to take a 5-week paid vacation.
I'm Morris Jones, American Crossroads.
For now anyway, gas prices have dropped. But why? I mean, of course, because the price of oil has come down, but again, why? Does anybody really know?
The way I look at it, somebody want to make more money, so they make us pay more for gas.
Our country being at war.
OPEC.
Supply and demand.
I don't know what they're doing.
Everybody decides that they want to drive a large SUV when they have one child that fits 8 people.
I just would prefer that it go down.
I mean, as simple as that.
Some experts say a speculative bubble burst. As gas prices rose, no surprise, Americans drove less, and that's generally seen as a good thing in terms of consumption, cost, carbon footprints, etc. But now that gas is a little less expensive, will demand accelerate?
The drop in price is providing a false sense of security to many of the consumers out there, and many of us in the market are concerned that they will go back to their old consumption behaviors.
Okay, now getting back to a long-term energy solution, a bipartisan group of senators known as the Gang of 10, 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, has come up with a compromise energy package
that focuses on supply, focuses on conservation, and focuses on alternatives.
We'll talk more about some of those alternatives later, but federal lawmakers might find themselves dealing with another problem stemming from high gas prices. Drivers filling up less. As Megan McCorkle reports, that means less tax money for transportation projects.
Every time you and I fill up, we pay just over 18 cents a gallon in federal tax, money that's supposed to help build and maintain our highways and support mass transit.
$40 billion in road projects are scheduled next year alone, but when drivers fill up less, the Highway Trust Fund starts to dry up. A recent report in the LA Times reveals the fund could be more than $3 billion in the red by next year. But former Congressman Ernest Istook says there's a bigger problem.
It doesn't help to put more money into a broken system. Before the Minnesota bridge collapse, in the highway bill before that, Minnesota's congressional delegation got $450 million earmarked for 140 different projects, but none of them to fix that bridge.
Instead, the Highway Trust Fund is being used to pay for bike paths, even transportation museums.
For decades, the Highway Trust Fund has been used to subsidize non-highway travel.
Istook says first, Congress needs to stop diverting money from the fund, then find a different way to keep it viable. And lawmakers will need to come up with that answer soon. According to the American Road and Transportation Builders Association, federal highway spending nationwide could be cut by a third beginning October 1st.
Even the head of the Senate Transportation Appropriations Subcommittee says we're now less than a year away from a bankrupt highway trust fund. Megan McCorkle, American Crossroads.
States are also feeling the pinch directly. Fewer drivers means less money collected on toll roads and at bridges and tunnels. Here are just a few examples from an article in USA Today. Revenue from passenger car tolls in West Virginia down just over 7% compared to last year. In Florida, a revenue drop of 3.5%, or a little more than $17 million. You know, it might seem like there's nothing but bad news these days. Volatile oil and gas prices, a housing crisis that just won't seem to end, ordinary folks struggling just to get by. But a tiny town in North Dakota is buzzing with good fortune because it's sitting on top of what many geologists say is an ocean of oil. Thelma Gutierrez has this story.
Stanley, North Dakota, a farming town of about 1,000 near the Canadian border.
Drive by Stanley, you'll blink, you'll miss it.
It's hard to miss what's happening here now.
I mean, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of wells.
Everywhere we went, the talk was about black gold, oil that's sitting nearly 2 miles beneath the surface.
The continual amount of oil we find in North Dakota is as much as 3 times as much as in Texas.
It's called the Bakken Formation, a vast 200,000 square mile area from North Dakota to Montana and into Canada, rich with more than 3 billion barrels of crude. It was discovered in the 50s, but it wasn't until recently that the oil companies had the technology to drill both vertically and horizontally to get it out of the ground.
Oil field has blessed us. We're making lots of money.
Are you in the 6-figure range or?
Yes.
Hauling water.
Hauling water. Don't get no better.
That promise of money is bringing hundreds of workers in. The only housing crisis here is that you can't find any.
There's one hotel in town and that's full.
What about an RV park?
RV parks are full.
Stanley's mayor is still reeling from the boom that started just 8 months ago and the growing pains the town is experiencing. They need new roads, a new water and sewer system, but Stanley's share of oil tax revenues is under $300,000. The state gets the bulk of it. So how many potential millionaires did we run into? 24-year-old Aaron Skarsgård now has a well on his farm.
My family has 3. And there's more and more getting staked out every day.
48 years ago, you were working on these rigs. Now it looks like there's going to be one on your property. Could you have ever imagined that?
No, not in a lifetime.
Robert Western is 74. He took us to his farm and pointed out a stake right in the middle of his canola field. A sweet sight for a man who grew up during the Depression.
We certainly won't have money problems in the future.
Do you wish it would have happened sooner?
It would have been nice.
Better late than never for a farmer who could become an oil baron in a brand new boomtown.
Great. Now canola prices are going up.
There's a stranglehold right around their neck.
An oil billionaire now leading the call to get away from oil. And outrage over an oil profit windfall for Iraq.
This is not rocket science.
A $50 billion lie, and you're paying for it. These stories and more still ahead on American Crossroads.